You wake up to the sound every Ukrainian man learns to hate. Not an explosion, not a siren, not even your phone, but the little electrical crackle in your own nervous system that says maybe today is the day somebody asks for your documents. The apartment is still cold. The kettle wheezes like it's testifying against you. Your mother is texting in all caps. Your friend has vanished into Poland, or a trench, or both. And you, glorious strategist, prince of postponement, grand master of not being exactly where the state expects you to be, are trying to calculate whether buying bread is worth the risk of existing in public. Because in wartime Ukraine, just stepping outside can feel less like a normal errand and more like entering a live-action bureaucracy horror film with QR codes. Men 18 to 60 are required to carry military registration documents during mobilization, and authorized officers, police, and border guards can demand them. Men 25 to 60 are the main age group generally subject to mobilization, with some narrower cases for ages 18 to 25. So your life becomes microscopic. Not heroic, not cinematic in the way foreign reporters like to frame it. Cinematic in the worst way, where every door buzzer sounds like destiny wearing cheap shoes. You learn your district like a rat learns a laboratory maze. Which pharmacy has 2 exits? Which supermarket has security guys who don't care? Which metro station is full of commuters, students, grandmothers, and therefore safe-ish? And which one feels like a giant concrete mouth swallowing only men who looked at their phones for half a second too long? You stop moving through the city like a citizen and start moving through it like a smuggled object. And the humiliating part is that the whole machine is not even pretending to be medieval anymore. It is digital now, efficient-looking, sterile. You are not dodging a single dramatic knock on the door. You are dodging databases, registry checks, app screens, mail records, and that modern nightmare where your life can be reduced to one colored banner inside a government interface. Ukraine's defense ministry says military registration documents can be electronic through Reserve Plus, with QR codes readable by officials, and the system increasingly automates deferments and violation handling. In 2026, the ministry said 90% of issued deferments were being extended automatically, and in 2025, it expanded Reserve Plus to let users pay certain fines inside the app. That is the first twist. You imagine draft dodging as pure wilderness, masculine folklore, disappearing into forests, crossing rivers at midnight, bribing some cartoon villain in a leather jacket. But 2026 turns it into admin core, spreadsheet terror. Your enemy is not one man in uniform. It is form logic. It is a system quietly asking why you did not update your address within 7 days, why you did not appear for an exam, why you did not show up after the call-up was deemed delivered, why your status changed, why your excuses still sound handmade. The state does not need to scream at you every day. It just has to remain there, patient, with a bigger memory than yours. The ministry's guidance says failing to report, refusing or missing a medical commission, and several registration violations can trigger fines through Reserve Plus. The discounted payment described there is 8,500 UAH, rising to 17,000 UAH if unpaid on time, and then doubling again to 34,000 UAH after another deadline, while repeated disregard can escalate beyond administrative penalties. So you become a monk of avoidance. You trim your routines until they are bone. You stop posting. You stop tagging locations. You stop answering unknown calls because every ringtone now sounds like a prelude to paperwork. Friends split into categories: the lucky, the righteous, the trapped, the performatively patriotic, the quietly terrified. The ones who tell you, with enormous moral confidence from another country, what a real man should do. The ones who whisper the name of some route near Zakarpattia like they are sharing an offshore banking trick. The ones who say, "Relax, brother, there's always a scheme," which is exactly what people say right before their scheme gets them arrested in a muddy field wearing borrowed boots and a facial expression normally seen on livestock. Because the black market around fear is always hiring. Every siege creates prophets, patriots, deserters, and salesmen. Suddenly, everyone knows a guy who can solve your problem with one envelope, one certificate, one fake disability claim, one seat in a van, one path through the mountains, one inflatable miracle over a freezing river. and every one of those offers smells like wet cash and prison air. Reuters reported in 2025 that Ukrainian authorities detained a group, including border guards, accused of helping men flee illegally while charging about $15,000 per person. That is the second twist. You are not just hiding from the state, you are hiding from the market that grows around the state. Fear becomes an industry, and you are the customer they can smell through walls. The more desperate you look, the more expensive freedom gets. Every rumor raises the price. Every policy update creates a new cast of amateur interpreters, telegram lawyers, basement logisticians, spreadsheet shamans. Men who can explain, with supernatural confidence, exactly which age group can leave, who qualifies, who doesn't, what changed last Tuesday, and why their cousin definitely crossed with a choir certificate and a limp. But real life keeps humiliating rumor. Ukraine's government and related official guidance have kept wartime border restrictions in place for most men 18 to 60, while also making narrower adjustments, including an August 2025 update for some men aged 18 to 22. And this is where your life shrinks again, because every exception is also a mirror. Students, fathers of large families, caregivers, teachers, people with certain disabilities in the family, people with reservations, people with deferments, people with paperwork so immaculate it glows. The state is not saying every man is identical. It is saying, prove you are not. In 2026, the Defense Ministry said automatic extensions covered 7 added deferment categories, including single parents, school teachers, guardians of incapacitated people, and some caregivers. So now the draft dodger's daily life is not only fear, it is comparison, a poisonous, low-grade acid. You stand in line for coffee and see a guy your age laughing, clearly not worried, maybe reserved by an employer, maybe legally deferred, maybe just better at acting human. Another guy has a uniform tan and a stare like old glass. Another is 22 and making plans to study abroad while you are old enough to be inside the machine's center of gravity. Another has actually been to the front and came back quieter, narrower, mechanically polite, which somehow makes your own panic feel both selfish and completely rational. You start measuring your moral worth against strangers in puffer jackets. Then comes the truly rotten part, the private negotiations with yourself. You tell yourself you are not a coward, only practical. Not disloyal, only unconvinced. Not refusing to defend your country, only refusing to enter a grinder whose terms you do not control. Maybe you tell yourself your skills are better used alive. Maybe you tell yourself your death would be administrative, not epic. And you have no intention of becoming a before and after photo in somebody else's motivational thread. Maybe all of that is true. Maybe none of it saves you from the shame. Because shame is the one authority that never needs legal power. It just sits in the room and watches you boil pasta. Outside, the country keeps functioning with that insane Ukrainian habit of operating apocalypse and normality in the same frame. Trams run, cafes open, people flirt, startups launch, officials brief, analysts discuss manpower like it is a supply chain variable. The war becomes both cosmic and procedural. Parliament debates rules, ministries publish explanations, apps get updated. Entire lives hinge on a notification badge. Reuters reported when Ukraine tightened mobilization rules in 2024 that the government aimed to force data updates, raise penalties, and reinforce exhausted troops. Official ministry guidance since then has emphasized reporting duties, medical checks, and document verification. And you, meanwhile, become a connoisseur of indoor light. Afternoon light means danger because it suggests errands. Evening light means possibility because crowds are thicker. Rain is your ally. Holidays are your ally. Traffic is your ally. You begin rooting for conditions that make society less efficient. You do not say this out loud, obviously, but some part of you starts loving chaos for the simple reason that chaos makes everybody harder to count. Then the madness scales up. A war does not let you remain a private individual forever. Your absence becomes political whether you want it to or not. Every draft dodger is a walking argument in somebody else's speech. To some, you are proof the system is unjust. To others, proof society is decaying. To others, proof the middle class can outsource sacrifice while villages bleed. To scammers, you are revenue. To officials, you are a compliance problem. To nationalists, a traitor. To your relatives, an unresolved family weather pattern. To yourself, somehow, all of the above before lunch. You start to realize the real prison is not an enlistment office, a checkpoint, or even the border. It is the permanent provisional life. Never fully legal, never fully gone, never fully committed, never fully at peace. You cannot build because you might have to disappear. You cannot love honestly because your future is a footnote. You cannot even enjoy survival properly because survival keeps sending invoices. The state may not catch you today. Fine, then you will live inside the catch-shaped hole anyway. And that is the darkest joke in the whole story. You set out to preserve your freedom, and 2026 turns freedom into a room with blackout curtains, 3 backup explanations, 1 charged phone, a folder of documents, and a pulse that spikes every time someone knocks on the wrong door. You are not on the front line, but the war still occupies your schedule, your friendships, your masculinity, your map of the city, your relationship with every uniform, every envelope, every QR code, every question that begins with, "Can I see your..." You are not outside history. History has simply chosen to stalk you indoors. So your life as a draft dodger in Ukraine is not some rogue fantasy of beating the system. It is a long, claustrophobic negotiation with fear, law, guilt, rumor, and time, while an entire country keeps paying for every delay in blood. And each morning you wake up in the same bed, in the same city, under the same war, with the same absurd hope that maybe today the state, the market, your conscience, and the century will all forget your name for one more day.